Now it's me versus you. Have you ever said that to someone? Maybe not. But have you ever thought that in your head or in your heart? You probably have. Why do you think that? Why is it me versus you? That's something that I want to talk about today. Today, we're going to talk about something called the tribes effect. Now, what is the tribes effect? Me versus you. I want you to think about that as we talk today. Daniel Shapiro. Daniel Shapiro is the founder and director of the Harvard International Negotiation Program. He authored the book called Negotiating the Non-Negotiable: How to Resolve Your Most Emotionally Charged Conflicts. Now, he wrote that in 2016, but it's still extremely prevalent today, tomorrow, and it always will be because there is always conflict among people because everyone has a human nature and a human identity, and that causes conflict. Now, why is this important? Why are we talking about conflict? Being able to understand the heart of a conflict is one of the most important things that you can do in any negotiation. Being able to bridge the gap between two people, two groups, two organizations is an extremely difficult but important task to be able to know how to do. When you're looking at an issue, are you just looking at the surface or are you looking at what's below? Identifying and addressing the root of an issue is what we want to be able to do. Now, when you think about us versus you, it's me versus you. That's something that we call the tribes effect. Now, why is the tribes effect dangerous to organizations, to groups, and to individuals? It's for a couple reasons. It provides a divisive mindset. When it's me and you and me and you, it provides divisiveness and it pulls people apart. It makes people resistant to change. If it's me versus you, I don't want to. I don't want to be hospitable. I don't want to um, comply or compromise. Why would I want to do that if it's me versus you? It's a competition. We're not allies and we're not friends. See how that makes you sound? Self-righteous, adversarial, and closed off. Now, why do we do that? Tribes effect targets your identity, who you are as a person. Now, is that what your favorite bag of chips is, or what your favorite movie is, or where you want to go to dinner tonight? Probably not. But seemingly trivial things can trigger what's known as tribes effect, what can trigger your identity. We'll look at some examples today of how that can take place. One thing that I want to talk about is something called vertigo. Now, maybe you've heard that as a medical term, and that has some implication on what is described from Shapiro. Vertigo is something that makes you feel out of your body. It makes you lose sense of time and space. You're so overcome with emotion, you forget what's going on. Let's look at an example from at home. Do you have a younger brother, a younger sister? Do they cry when you're not able to hang out with them, when you're not able to make plans with them? When I was younger, I had two older brothers. And when I wanted to play video games with them and they said no, I would throw a temper tantrum. Now, why'd I do that? As a young kid, I was just upset I couldn't play video games with my sibling. But now, looking back, I lost sense of time and space as a 8 or 9 year old, wanted to play video games with his brother. But what it communicated to me is that I wasn't good enough. So they didn't want to spend time with me. And it targeted something deep in my identity and triggered what we're calling the tribes effect. Let's look at a more corporate example. When you're at work, you're scared. Why are you scared? Well, you used to have a boss 3 years ago that every time that you would do something wrong, they would berate you verbally and make you feel like you couldn't do anything right. And now, 3 years later, you have a fantastic boss. But yesterday, he came in and said that you needed to correct something on your report. And this morning you woke up ready to go to work and you got physically sick. It's about the past pain that still haunts you. And it triggers these things inside of our identities. In my own personal work experience, I have a coworker named Abby. And Abby called me after one of our meetings and said that she didn't feel like she was being included in conversation. She explained to me that she used to work at a bank and she used to be a bank teller. And now she works in a big corporation and feels like no one listens to her because of her past work experience. What I heard her saying was that her past fear still haunts her of not feeling good enough, not feeling included. One concept that Shapiro talks about is the ECNI method: when to exclude people, when to consult people, when to negotiate with people, and when to inform people. Now, with Abby, the things that we're talking about, I might not have any say in, she might not have any say in. We could both not talk in the same meeting, and she might still feel like she was the only one that didn't get to speak. It's about her past pain haunting her, or a feared future that she's worried or scared about. The ECNI method is a good method to overcome that, to feel like they're being included, even if they don't have any actual decision to make. Let's say that our company is making a big decision, and there's people that feel like they're not being involved in that decision. They might not have any say in it. They might not have any decision power. But when they're informed and when they're included in that, they feel like they're a part of something and they feel better about the situation. Now, what can we take away from this? Why is this even important? Why are we talking about it? Overcoming conflict is essential. When you think about vertigo and you think about being so enthralled with your emotion that you lose sense of time and space, that is not a healthy mindset to be in, and it's not beneficial and not constructive to be able to overcome conflict. One thing with vertigo is that you can think about speeding up time or slowing down time. One thing that I like to think of is speeding up time. As a 24-year-old, one thing with vertigo is that if you feel overcome by the emotion and you can take a step back and say, how would I feel in 10 years when time is sped up? As a 34-year-old, how would I feel about this conflict that I'm experiencing right now and the emotions that I'm feeling? And that's one way that you can break free of vertigo. Like I mentioned, knowing how to express your emotions in a healthy way is beneficial in any conflict. Looking for areas of commonality, looking for how to bridge that gap. When you know how to identify and not only identify, but also solve conflict, it's extremely beneficial. But that takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. Shapiro talks about this in depth with reconciliation. Reconciliation is not an overnight process. If you have trauma from a past pain, that's not something that's solved overnight. When you're looking at bridging the gap, you want to look for areas of commonality with the other group. One thing that I like that we talk about is looking for areas of transcendent connection. What does that mean, transcendent? It means something higher than yourself. You want to experience something with other people that is out of this world, that is not just the mundane Monday through Friday. One thing that teams like to do is take weekly uh, retreats, take one day out of the week, and they'll go somewhere and experience something outside of the mundane Monday through Friday, the normal grind of just work, and experience something together, whether it's a sunset, a sunrise, if you're near an ocean, the waves crashing against the bank, something that is outside of the human ability that brings people together. Now, when you're looking at negotiation and conflict, improving relationships, why is this even important? It helps you not see the other person as the enemy. When you see the other person as the enemy, it is very hard to find areas of commonality. You don't want to, like we talked about earlier. If we're not friends, then there's no reason that I should find a point of commonality with you. It helps increase collaboration. It helps define identity in a healthy way, and it breaks taboos that can help constrain the other side negotiation. And it helps relationships be able to see the positive. When thinking about leadership, how do we accomplish this? What are some ways that we can be proactive with conflict and help prevent it instead of just attacking the surface level areas? Um, Things that we've talked about today are ways that leadership can give their employees these tools to help solve conflict in their personal lives. For some practical steps that me and you can take in order to help break free of some of these mindsets. We want to adopt a communal mindset that we're all in this together. We want to be cooperative and not rigid and divisive. We want to be compassionate. We want to have empathy for the other side and not see them as the enemy. And we also want to be open. We want to be open to new possibilities, new mindsets. That will all help our teams be more inclusive and function at a much higher level when we all feel like we're on the same page and we're not fighting against each other. This is just a little bit about the tribes effect, but I hope that you have learned something as I have learned something as well through this process. Thank you and have a great day.